no proposal put in front of him. It was what the word that was put to me. So, listen, I'm not saying that might not change. That might change. But as things stand, that there's been no contract yet. As I said, he told us last month he's keen to stay, but there's no contract offer there as such. And then you're looking at Václav Černý. We're looking at £6.5 million if Rangers want to sign him. Again, I think those are kind of sums that where this club is at the minute. They would be reluctant to pay if they can pay them at all. I'm not sure. They're already committed in the summer to spending £4.5 million in Oscar Cortez, and say what you want about that one. Given how little he's ever, I still have no idea if he's even worth that, because I've barely seen enough of him to make a judgment call on it.
You've probably seen him once every 3 months.
Yeah.
So and he's for 90 minutes and then he's injured again. So
still no word on when he's back either. So.
No, I just feel. I mean, I think it would be ridiculous. I think the kind of fee, what is it, about between 6 and 7 million for Černý? I think that would be that would represent an excellent bit of business, great value. But Hagi's a free. You don't even need to. He's inside the squad already. It should be so simple. But
listen, and they've cleared a huge whack off the wage bill last summer. It looks like they're starting to clear another big whack off it. I mean, as we discussed, I think last time I was on with Keith was before Thursday night's game. The guys that they're now going to rely on to be the sort of the fringe men and the guys that that fill out the squad are going to be the young boys. I mean, you've got Kieran Dowell who's on 20 odd grand a week. Matondo approaching 30. That's 50 grand a week they've got off the wage bill. For two guys that have provided. What exactly? What way have those two guys contributed in their time here? So
sod all.
Yeah. So listen, there should be room to play with now, you'd imagine. And then you're looking at somebody like Ianis Hagi, who is clearly making a contribution and has been key to whatever you want to call it, a resurgence or just an upturn.
Just the progress,
he's been central to it, and Václav Černý as well. So. Obviously, there's a transfer fee. His wages are going to be pretty substantial as well, you'd imagine, just given he's a Czech international who's played at some pretty big clubs. But I think you can see how important he is to this team, and if there is any way in which they can get a deal to get him tied down for next season, they need to do it. But right now, it's the priorities tomorrow, and what deals they can get in. We just spoke to Fluke Clement, and he's been taking this kind of approach anytime the last month or two, pretty much since Patrick Stewart came in. He's no longer sort of entertaining questions about what can be done transfer wise. He's always played things pretty close to his chest in that front, but he's given us even less now, and basically just throwing everything back to the board. It's now down to them. So that was effective.
Patrick.
Yeah, that's effectively his message after the game there. He's told the board what he wants. Now they have to go and see what they can do. So, I think that's the pressure on them. He clearly feels he needs certainly probably a couple more. I think they need certainly another winger in. They get rid of Matondo, they've got Dow who could play out there. He shot down these suggestions that Lovelace might be on his way out of the building. He said he was injured today. That was the reason why he wasn't in the squad, despite there's a few rumours going about he might be going back to Millwall.
Same with the Yilmaz.
Yeah. So I think Yilmaz again. I think he's addressed that before the game, saying that he's got nobody. He's still just injured with that injury picked up at Old Trafford. So, So I would, I think Rangers do need a couple of players. Whether they get them or not, I'm not entirely convinced. As much as they've saved money, I just think funds are in such short supply because of £17 million loss last year. They've got money. They've had to set aside money to pay for Hampden. There's obviously the costly rebuild of the Colton Road end across there. I think funds are going to be tight, and I wonder if they just might think, listen, this season is going to pan out as it is.
Write it off.
It's a transition season. This is what a transition season looked like. So,
Andy, we've got a comment here from Rangers Easy OK watching on YouTube, and thanks for all the comments that are coming in. Keep them coming, folks. Hope we can get one in before tomorrow night. I would pay the money for Černý. That's 22 goals and assists, and we've just hit February. He's right, isn't he?
Oh, definitely. I mean, he's contributing. As I'm saying, there's been enough players at the club over the last few years who have taken away big, pretty big, heavy wage packets and have delivered nothing for it. That's a guy, and what I really like about him is he was honest enough to admit earlier on this season. You remember back to the miss against Malmo, the miss against Lyon here, especially the Lyon game, which was a costly one. They got a pretty heavy defeat that night. He was honest enough to hold his hands up and say that wasn't good enough. And what I like about him is he's since then he's up to his levels and he's providing and he's scoring and he's assisting and he's making a contribution, which, as I said, too many people down the years here lately haven't done. They've taken away, big healthy wage packets and what value have they provided?
Yeah.
Very little.
Andy, as ever, you give us great value. I know you've got some work to do, so I'll let you charge on. We'll go back to Fraser. But thanks for joining. Oh, tomorrow night, by the way, transfer special. We're doing a late night edition after 10 o'clock, and I hope to see you then, and maybe you'll have some news for us on comings and goings.
Well, we'll see. Good jury duty this week, so we'll see.
That's right. Right, okay.
Or the doc.
Right,
Cheers.
I'm not saying anything more about that. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There we go. Fraser.
I'm on a 4-minute countdown now, Keith. I've just been told.
4 minutes.
Watches are locking up here. Yep.
Right, that's okay because I've got one up my sleeve. Scott Burns, our transfer guru, will be joining us shortly to talk us
to the rescue.
through what he expects to come in the transfer window. But just on the Celtic performance, Fraser, and the situation that they're in. After the game, Brendan Rodgers was kind of pretty bullish in the way he was talking about he wants more bodies in that door, and I don't think he's going to be happy with excuses if they don't arrive.
No, and I'm sure you'll be reading about it pretty soon. He said to us that obviously a striker is a priority, somebody to back up Adam Maeda, and he more or less said it will be a loan signing if they get one in. At this stage of the window, you don't want to risk big money on just pulling somebody in when the last minute and being stuck with them. So it is most likely to be a loan signing if they do get another striker in. But the names that have all been bandied about in the last few days all seem to be heading elsewhere. So it's going to be a right interesting watch to see who does come in that position.
This quote leapt off the page at me. It's always difficult brackets at this stage in the window, but there are good players available in January. There's always the mentality that you can't get good players, but there is availability and we can afford it. So I'd like to think we can do that. That's thrown the gauntlet down, is it not?
It is. He also said he's not going to fall out with anyone this window, so that can only be aimed at the board. But the big one was Matthias, I need to get this right, Kvistgaarden, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. The guy they tried to bring in 2 summers ago for roughly 4.5 to 5 million. He's now done so well with Brøndby. They're looking for upwards of 12, 13, 14 million now, which would be another record outlay for Celtic. So I don't expect that will be going through just the way Rodgers was speaking after the game this afternoon.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right.
Going through in the next 24 hours. Really interesting to see where they look now. Iheanacho's old Leicester striker Iheanacho was mentioned, but he's heading to Middlesbrough very quickly. That was off the cards. Evan Ferguson's another one that's been mentioned, but looks set to join West Ham.
Yeah.
Look, they will have plenty of irons in the fire. It's just speaking of West Ham, that was an unintended link there. But just be interesting to see, 1, whether they do get one across the line, and 2, who it is. But see, Adam Maeda, to be fair, Adam Maeda's been in the spotlight for the last week now because of this situation with Kyogo leaving. And boy, has he answered the questions. I mean, outstanding at Villa Park, I think we'd all agree. Not just his 2 goals, just his general number 9 striker play, And again today, a very similar type goal again because he timed his run and knew to be between the posts. So a similar type goal again today, but strong, powerful, hit the post with a good 20-yard effort in the second half. Very unfortunate not to get an assist of his own when they had a goal, kind of dubious one chopped off by VAR when Tom Sparrow knocked into his own net.
The own goal, it was really marginal. I actually thought, with naked eye, I thought he timed and arched his run perfectly for that goal, Fraser. So I was surprised.
I thought it was brilliant the way he brought it down, turned, and then got away from, I think it was Liam Gordon. I really think the last 2 games, Adam Maeda is looking like the £9 million striker Celtic hoped they were getting. So, really, if they're bringing somebody in, it might well be to be backup to Adam Maeda. A different type. Obviously, Kyogo was such a different type to Adam Maeda. Maybe they're looking for that wee nippy type striker to give a different option.
Yeah, I think that probably is part of the thinking.
That as well, though, Keith. You know, that's him in 16 goals now.
And he's looking more accomplished in the final third than he had looked previously. You know, you always felt with Maeda, he'd pace to burn and he'd destroy people in terms of his running power and his energy levels. But he's added a bit of finesse and quality and, you know, the final ball, the final kind of trick inside the penalty box. He's far more rounded than he was even 2 years ago, I think, Maeda. So I think he is an option.
Yeah, there's goals there. They just... Oh, the lights are about to go out in me here. Not the first time I've said that.
Do you know what? This has got absolute shambles written all over it, Fraz. So I'm going to let you go, right? And I'm going to go to the transfer. Listen, Fraz, thanks for joining us. Safe up the road. And we'll get your jammies and your cocoa ready for tomorrow night, and we'll catch up with you then.
Brilliant. Okay, look forward to it. Cheers, Keith.
Cheers, Fraz.
Dara.
And as if by magic, along comes Scott Burns. Scott, the fans that were getting all the comments, it's all geared towards the transfer window, what to expect, what they want to happen. You're the man in the know. With just over 24 hours remaining, what's hot, what's not right now?
I think it's like a Greek wedding just now with the amount of teams that have got plates spinning.
Aye.
Could look like I've been seconds factory, a Royal Dalton factory the way it's going. I think the problem you've got with Rangers and Celtic just now is that they obviously had the game this afternoon, and that's a spanning in the works. I think obviously the recruitment teams and that are working on deals behind the scenes, but the managers are both central to that as well. And I think you'll see that kicking on now that both these games are out the way. I think that's just an unnecessary distraction for them, certainly in terms of the transfer window. But as we spoke a bit before there, you spoke with Fraser there about and Brendan Rodgers has said as well, we need to bring in a striker before the close of the window. Mm-hmm. Obviously the one we're talking about is the one was the Bromby striker, Matthias Kvistgaard. Yep, obviously there's been talks with Bromby, but I spoke to Bromby sources this afternoon, and they are adamant there has been no bid from Celtic. Obviously, there has been discussions, and they were quite a bit apart in terms of the valuation. So, as it stands, unless Celtic come in late on, it's looking unlikely. But I see that Brendan Rodgers has indicated it's more likely to be a loan signing now. But I think just now, just in terms of, it's very hard to get top strikers in a permanent deal in January. And if you do, you're paying a premium for them. So maybe he's thinking, well, take somebody in short term and get more value for money come the summer. Although you would have thought when they'd sold Jota that they probably would have had a ready-made replacement to come in the door right after it. Although Jota's
when Kyogo went,
Kyogo went, yeah. But Jota's obviously a slightly different position. But there's a few. I know that there was David Strelic of Slovan Bratislava was discussed.
He's an interesting one, isn't he?
Yep, I think that's what. But they turned down £5 million from Middlesbrough, and their sporting director said they wanted like anything between 8 and 10 million. So even at this stage, this is probably a lot of money. Could they get him for less? Maybe in the summer, you'd probably find that they probably could. So I think it's more about value for money now for Celtic than anything else, and getting the right players in at the right price.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one, Scott, because even this time last week, you're looking at the situation, you think, well, Tierney looks as if that can get done ahead of the deadline. Jota's back in. And you look at it and think, well, wow, what a brilliant window this is shaping up, because there probably is going to be a striker as well. And yet here we are, 24 hours away. And I think the worst case scenario for the Celtic supporters would be that Tierney isn't allowed to leave Arsenal early, and that Celtic go into the second half of the season with Maeda and Daizen Maeda as, their main options up front. It doesn't feel quite how it felt a week ago, put it that way.
It's very much. They have got a few loan options they're looking at. There's one I know of south of the border, so that could quite easily happen. But no, whatever happens, Celtic will still attract players, and they'll get a quality, as Brendan Rodgers has said. There's still quality players available in this window. It's just about whether it's a short-term fix or a long-term fix. And I think Celtic, as it stands, they just need another striker in at the top end for the the second half of the season domestically and obviously the big Champions League games. I mean, you look at him in Kelechi and the actual, I mean, obviously Brendan's worked with him before. He's obviously sounding about, asked the question, and it's come back that he's going to Middlesbrough. So I think, this is the problem that the Celtic are going to have. Yeah, they've got Champions League football, but if there's like a half-decent club in England comes in, then it's very difficult to get them north of the border.
And we think Celtic might be about to lose another striker, don't we?
I think there's every chance they could lose a striker. It just depends on whether it's now or the end of the season.
And we're talking about Daniel Cummings.
Daniel Cummings, yeah, obviously he came on and made his Celtic debut in the Champions League game against Aston Villa. Scored an awful lot of goals for the Celtic B team in the Lowland League and in the Champions League youth levels. So he's obviously, his goals make him look as if he's a top prospect. But so, I mean, Celtic have offered him a new contract, but it looks like as it stands that he's heading to West Ham. I mean, my understanding is that a pre-contract has been agreed. There's some reports down south that West Ham have made a £500,000 offer for him, and as yet there's been no reply from Celtic. So it'd be interesting to see how that pans out, because if it is £500,000, then I think it's more than Celtic would get if he went in the summer for a cross-border compensation. So I think it's one that Celtic have got to weigh up, but it looks really likely that they'll lose another one of their top talents from their academy.
I don't think Brendan Rodgers is particularly pleased with this one, Scott, because I think he spoke on Friday, didn't he? And he was almost pointing to it, just saying that young players at this club, they need to understand, they need to show a bit of patience. I'll play young players when they're ready for the first team. And he says you've got to be careful if you listen to agents who've got their own agendas. Well, I was going to say it's almost as if Brendan Rodgers was aware of what was going on, but he was definitely aware that there was some interest and some possibility of losing this young boy to West Ham.
No, that's certainly the case. I mean, the amount of goals he scored, would put him on the radar for a lot of clubs, you know what I mean? Especially the goals he scored in the Youth Champions League. So he's always going to put him on the radar. If Celtic lose him, they're not exactly blameless in this either. I don't think they were very proactive in terms of offering a new contract. They have offered a new contract now, but if they thought that highly of him, why didn't they do it months ago, well before this window opened, and tried to nail him down on a long-term contract? Then they would have been in a better position than leaving it as late as they did.
Right, what else is cooking?
Obviously, but we're talking about the KT one. That'll be, reports down south the other day said it's unlikely he'll come up, but I think there's still a wee bit of hope there. But also depends on, I see he's on the bench tonight, isn't he? Him and Zinchenko as well. So remains to be seen what happens in the next 24 hours. But there's lots of names.
You don't think you don't think that one's dead yet?
I don't think.
I was speaking to somebody at Celtic over the weekend who very, very doubtful. They felt that Arsenal were making it just too awkward, and it didn't look likely at all. But that doesn't mean they're still not trying to do something.
No, the one thing though is that, Kieran Tierney, he won't rock the boat to make it happen. The one thing about him is his professionalism, and he'll give everything he's got until his time's up at Arsenal, sort of thing. So there's no issue on that front. But I still think that I was told earlier on by somebody. They still thought it was 50-50. So interesting to see what happens in the last 24 hours to see if Arsenal keep all the left back options, if Zinchenko goes, then it'll all come down to the ins and outs. And once that Arsenal door closes, then what Mikel Arteta's got, he might just let him go. So we'll see. And then being banded about yesterday was that Celtic were interested in the Hearts left back James Benrice. But there's been nothing club to club in that one. But obviously he's had an impressive season, sort of thing.
He's been good.
Yeah, but that was one that's been thrown about. It was certainly mentioned by a few people to me yesterday, but there's been nothing club to club. So
right, because that is the other side of this, Scott. If Arsenal dig their heels in and don't let Kieran Tierney get away, Celtic are going to have to find a left back from somewhere before 11 o'clock tomorrow night.
They are going to sign out. They have to get a left back. But saying that, they've still got Adam Montgomery, who has got good Premiership experience. And I know that if they do bring in another left back, I would expect Adam Montgomery to go out on loan, probably back to the Premiership. If they don't, then obviously have to remain as cover. So they've still got cover. I know it's not top level cover that you'd expect, but it's still half decent cover. So
listen, this is Brendan Rodgers we're talking about though, and he's made the point over and over about you go into the window in whatever shape you're in, you have to come out of the window in stronger shape. And that's why, you know, Alex Vai's been allowed to leave. He's off to Como on loan, obviously. I just feel if they can't get a deal done for Kieran Tierney, they're going to have to move heaven and earth to try and get a left back in that Brendan Rodgers will feel satisfied with. I think it would be my verdict.
I think in an ideal world that Brendan would want somebody in, you know what I mean? But we know what Celtic are like in these windows. The manager doesn't always get what he wants, although most of the time he does.
He's done quite well lately.
No, I'm saying most of the time he does. But there's another element there as well that, I mean, you've got Adam Montgomery is waiting to see if another left back comes in to see if he can get out on loan. Another one's Johnny Kenny, the Celtic striker. There's quite a bit of Premiership interest in him.
Okay.
But as it stands, and I know he's not near
Scottish Premiership.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think he will, but I don't think he'll be allowed to go unless Celtic can get another more experienced striker in. But obviously, he did well at Shamrock Rovers in the first half of the season.
So the Chris Garden, we don't think there's any possibility of that happening. I think you're right, and I wonder if Celtic feel that the price has just gone through the roof. I believe that they've been looking at this boy for over a year now, and that the price has more than doubled over that period. So I think Bromby might be talking himself out of a deal there, but you just can't say never, because Celtic do have money in the bank, Scott.
No, they've got the money, and probably, I mean, there's no doubt they could pay the asking price of Bromby. It's whether they see it as value for money, and it's whether they can see that, you know, they could develop the player and sell him for a massive fee, as has been the model in recent seasons. So, somebody said to me, I think it was about Celtic were looking at 7 million, and I think that the Danes were looking at a deal starting at 12. I mean, obviously they've probably tried to meet in the middle somewhere, and as of yet, it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe tomorrow Brendan might push the Celtic board into saying, look, let's do this. You know what I mean? Push it up another, I don't know, £1 million or whatever it takes. We just don't know as it stands.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a big gap. Anything else at any other clubs that's coming across your desk at this minute in time, Scott?
Right, I know Andy said earlier on he's not sure if any players will come out of Rangers. I mean, they're certainly spinning a few plates just now. There's a Portuguese player, I believe they're looking at, and there's another attacking player who, let me say, would be well known in the Premier League. But as it stands, that deal is probably hanging in the balance.
Right. So an experienced striker, English Premier League.
I didn't say anything about English Premier League.
You said Premier League. I was guessing
Scottish
you went to Swedish.
Scottish Premiership, sorry.
Right,
Scottish
okay.
Premiership. A well-kept face. So we'll see if that develops. But as I said earlier on,
you're teasing us.
That was less likely now since when I first heard about it.
Right, okay. Lawrence Shankland.
Pacey striker.
Right, okay. And where else should we be looking, Scott?
I was at the Hearts yesterday. Neil Critchley was saying that he's obviously done a lot with his squad. He wasn't ruling out doing any more. Player of interest to him is the Partick Thistle left back Harry Milne.
All right.
And that will be a blow to St Johnstone, who are also keen on the left back, who's out of contract in the summer. So it'll be interesting to see if either of those two Premiership clubs will try and do a deal before the close of the window tomorrow night. But that's another left back option, and certainly for Hearts it would be a good backup for James Penrice.
Well, you wonder, you know, with what you were hearing there, linking Celtic with Penrice, you wonder if that's part of a domino chain there.
Yeah.
Could very possibly be. Hearts are having to look at what Plan B might look like. So, right, okay. Little Birdie said something about Ellie Youhan.
Ellie Yuhan, you know, I mean, I don't think it's well documented that Stoke City are in for him at £1.5 million. I think the players' camp are hopeful that deal will happen before the end of the window. Blackburn were also in, but at half the price, and they are not willing, as it stands, to go anywhere near what Stoke have offered. So I would think that Hibs would probably try and cut a deal before the close of the window, and that would then allow them. They're still looking to strengthen, but that would give them additional revenues to go on by bringing in another winger and another midfielder sort of thing, because they were in for Daniel Gore of Man United, but he's since gone to Rotherham.
Yeah, it's a substantial fee. Right, okay, Burnsy, listen, you need a nice early night tonight. You've got a big day ahead of you. It's Christmas Day in the Burns house tomorrow, so I'm sure we'll be speaking to you.
Just before I go though, right? Obviously Motherwell haven't got a manager, so they seem to be doing an awful lot of business for not having a manager, but I've been told that they've had 2 bids rejected for the Cove Rangers goalkeeper, Nicholas Suman, the Australian.
Right.
So
that's interesting. Because I tell you what, a couple of the new boys that were playing against Celtic today looked okay. They
obviously brought the goalkeeper in Bangkok, but the boy Suman, he's played in the A-League out in Australia. He came across a couple of years to Cove Rangers to try and play in Europe sort of thing. But he's highly rated because Stephen Gerrard had him on trial when he was Rangers manager. So I'll be interested to see what develops there if Motherwell can agree a fee.
Right, okay, Burnsy, let's do it all tomorrow night. 10 o'clock, Jammy's on, cup of cocoa, and let's. Are you expecting it to be busy tomorrow?
I still think there'll be a few deals. Yeah, I do. It's been relatively quiet just now, just with the games and that. But no, I still think there'll be.
I think tomorrow might
double figures in terms of deals.
Yeah, I think tomorrow might be hectic. So you get a nice early kip, so you're nice and fresh for tomorrow night.
That'll be a first.
Brilliant, Burnsy. Thanks for joining us, mate.
All the best.
Cheers. And that's us. Another Hotline Live, done and dusted. But we're all sort of edging towards tomorrow now, and what drama lies ahead. I'm like Burnsy. I think there could be quite a bit of movement to and fro tomorrow. So we will be back at 10 p.m. tomorrow night. We're going to take it right through the window, which shuts at 11, and then see if there's one or two wee things dotting about in the minutes after it. Looking forward to it. We'll see you then, and thanks very much for joining us.